Error. Good morning. Welcome to episode 3 of Life in Lockdown. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Courtney Walsh, whose latest book, If for Any Reason, recently released in January. Is it January?
February. Right at the beginning of
February. There we go. February, recently released in early February. So we'll chat about that a little bit today. But hi, Courtney. Thanks for joining me.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
What is it? It's 8 o'clock Sunday morning in New Zealand. So where are you and what time is it in your world?
I'm in Illinois and it is Saturday afternoon about 3 o'clock. So yeah, I'm a day behind you.
So we're doing this series to have a chat to some of my favorite authors about kind of life in their COVID-19 world and what it's like, what your life was like before this global pandemic fell upon us, and kind of what your life is like now. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what's happening in Illinois at the moment and how different your life is at the moment compared to, I guess, what it was a few months ago?
Right. Well, in Illinois, we are currently on a shelter in place until April 30th. I think people are speculating whether or not that'll get extended. We just don't really know yet. So our kids are home from school, and we actually my husband and I own a performing arts studio and youth theater, and we were set to open our production of The Music Man on Friday, March 13th, and we got shut down on Thursday, March 12th. So we had done all of the work leading up to it and then just shut down. So I have this whole big, beautiful show that took so much work to get ready, just sitting there, and we can't do anything with it. So I think that's been the most heartbreaking thing of everything, is just not being able to, because our life is about gathering people, and it's about the audiences and the kids and, all of that. So to have that just kind of stripped away was, I think, the most challenging part of everything. Definitely never. I mean, it's so funny because in live theater, you're sort of used to just going with the flow and like rolling with the punches, and things come up and you just sort of pivot and change direction. But this was like a whole new world of stuff we didn't expect to happen. So it's been a little bit crazy. My personal life, I mean, I work from home. So most of the work that I do is at home. I write from home and I do all of our stuff for the studio at home. The difference is that now there's just not as much work because the studio is shut down. So that's been the challenging part. And then my kids are home all day because everybody's off of school. So it's very difficult to write when your kids are always needing you. And my kids are pretty self-sufficient, but it's just noisier. I just feel like I haven't been by myself for a long time. So yeah, I mean, we shelter in place here. It's not like, I mean, it is a huge difference. Everything's kind of quieter, and I've had to go to the store twice, and that's pretty much the only time that I've really left the house, is just, or if I have to run to the studio where there's nobody. So that's not a big deal to go in there. But it's just quiet and a little bit eerie, I think is a little bit strange, but yeah, it's just a very surreal spot to be in every day here.
And when you had to, like, I mean, there's no word for pivot away from a whole show that's been created. How were all your cast? That must have been just heartbreaking for them.
Well, yeah. And at the beginning, when it first happened, we were like, well, for how long? We didn't know if it was going to be a couple weeks, or like nobody said anything as far as like what the projected timeline was. And I mean, really, they still haven't. And I think the hardest thing for us personally is that when you're in the theater, I mean, everything takes months of planning. So like, you can't put up a show quickly. It's like, I mean, there's so many different things that have to fall into place. And so we had worked really hard to get our whole year in order. And so this is just such a lesson, because I was so proud of our schedule, and it was like so neatly arranged, and all the little things that we normally would do at the last minute, we had done way in advance. And so I don't know, I think this is our 7th year, and we were just really getting the hang of everything. And it just to have it like torn out from under you and have these kids. I mean, the other thing too is this particular cast had worked. I mean, all of our casts work hard, but I feel like this cast had to work harder to get ready, and they had gotten ready, and they did a show for school field trips on that Thursday morning. And after that show, we did pictures, and then we all went home. And that night, our county health department said that they were not going to allow gatherings of 25 or more. And so, I mean, our cast is bigger than that, but then the audience obviously is bigger than that. So it was pretty devastating. I mean, it is, especially because you have kids that are seniors and they're never going to be able to do another show with us again. And some of the kids, it was their first show. I have kids that are moving away this summer. So I'm just trying to figure out, I don't know, you just miss them, you know? So like, I'm devastated and sad, but then I can't even imagine how they're all feeling because they've done all this work too. So I'm just, you know, hopeful that we can get it back up sooner rather than later. That's my prayer now.
Yeah. So at the moment, shelter in place until April 30th, but might go longer.
Yeah, I think they're going to, well, and I'm thankful that they're not just like, I've heard of places just canceling things like for more and more months. And like for us personally, that would be pretty devastating if we knew, like, I like the idea of let's wait and see where we're at, because, you know, who knows what the numbers are going to do. And so we're, you know, I've heard of like a lot of hospitals are laying healthcare workers off. And so maybe in certain places it's not quite as bad. And in other places, obviously it's really bad. So I'm hopeful that they'll, you know, be able to maybe start opening some things back up. I'm not delusional enough to think it would be theater because that's big crowds, but you know, little by little, I'm hoping we can inch towards some normalcy again. But yeah, I mean, they haven't said that the school year is canceled either. So I know a lot of places they have, but our state hasn't said that yet. So I think there's also a part of me as a mom that's holding on for my son specifically, who is a track guy, you know, that he gets some part of his track season because he was really looking forward to that. The other thing that's crazy is, so my youngest son broke his femur on January 10th. And from January 10th for 6 weeks, which ended up being actually more like 8, he was home from school. He started going back to school the 7th week, but it was very, very slow. So he and I have basically been sheltering in place since January 10th because we couldn't go anywhere. I mean, he was in so much pain that he wouldn't be able to even like get in the car. And so the only time I left in those 6 weeks was to take him to the doctor. That was it. So I've already had like a good 8 weeks of this. He had gone back to school for like 2 weeks part-time, and then this all happened and it all got canceled again. So I'm just sort of like, this is a lot of home time and a lot of not being by myself time, you know what I mean? Because usually when I work from home and I'm writing from home, I get a couple hours in my house alone every day, and those are like, I crave those, and I haven't seen that in a long time. So I'm a little crazy, you know, just feeling like, okay, let's get on with this, because it's just, you know, it's been a really long time.
Yeah, I have one of my friends is in Oklahoma, and she was saying to me recently that they've cancelled the school year. She's like, and now I have my kids until August. I'm like,
yeah,
whoa, like,
yeah,
weird. Like, I've got 3, 8 and under, and I mean, they've been home for, I don't know, almost 3 weeks now. And
yeah.
our lockdown at the moment is until April 22nd, and then we're waiting to hear what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, if you told me that my kids are going to be home until August, like,
I know
we need another house.
That's a long time. I mean, and you know, like, you're a writer. I'm like, when you're trying to do something creative, like with all of the noise of the house in the background, it's really challenging. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like I can tune things out pretty well, but I just find myself to be incredibly distracted. I mean, the first 2 weeks, I think I was just really depressed. Like, I think I was just like, what are we going to do? Our business is shut down. Our show is just sitting here. I felt bad for our kids. And then, so, you know, there's that. And then I feel like I'm just sort of working my way through the stages of grief. And now I'm at acceptance. And now I'm just sort of like, all right, let's get on with this. I'm ready to get back to work. That's how I'm feeling now. Is I went from feeling like I don't want to do anything to feeling like, give me some work to do, you know? So it's just, I've like run the gamut of emotions, I think, here. It's just a little bit bizarre.
Do you have many cases in Illinois? Because in New Zealand, all we see on our news is New York. Like, that's all we hear about. And obviously that's a terrible
in my county, we have, I think, a few over, I think it's like 50 some But in Chicago, they have a lot. So I think the hard thing for where we are is like, Chicago is not the whole state of Illinois, but Chicago gets a lot of attention because it's obviously really big. And so sometimes I feel like what's best for Chicago isn't good. Not even just about this, just generally speaking. Like some people are like, in Illinois, they're like, let's make Chicago its own state, because it's just very different than the rest of the state. And the state is pretty big, but a lot of the decisions that are being made, you know, politically and everything, that's coming out of Chicago. The other thing, I shouldn't even say this probably, but there's things where you're sort of like, Chicago, I think Chicago has kind of bad reputation in terms of like our politicians and stuff. And I mean, I can see why, because they make all these rules and they make them like really strict, but then they break them themselves. Like the mayor of Chicago went and got a haircut, and like, you know, like people that are doing haircuts are going to get fined $750 if they're reported working, and she's going to get a haircut. So people are just like, what? Yeah. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on where you're just like, this doesn't seem okay with me. Plus all of my boys in my family. What's that?
It doesn't feel right.
No. I mean, if you're going to get a haircut, can my boys get haircuts? Because they all need that. Everybody in my house right now is shaggy. It's not a good scene. It's bad.
So what's keeping you sane in all of this uncertainty?
Well, I'm reading one of your books. That's keeping me sane. I think I told you I'm going slow. I'm a slow reader to begin with. So I'm definitely slower than usual, just because I find myself like, I don't know. I feel like it's very hard to concentrate right now. So I think I've been doing more watching of Netflix than I would normally do, for sure. This week, I think I'm going to try to do more writing and hopefully like try to make it a little bit productive. I'm just kind of giving myself a break. I think we all like, it's tempting to be like, oh, I can be really super productive. I've got all this time. But then there's this part of you that's sort of like, it's okay not to do that too, you know? So I've just sort of been trying to like give myself a little bit of grace there. And if some days I'm, you know, all I get accomplished is I took a shower and did Pilates, that's all I did, you know, and that's okay. So yeah, I think honestly, more cheesy television shows than I probably would care to admit.
So are you on a new project now? Like you starting a new book, or where are you at?
I have one that I'm in the middle of that I would like to self-publish this summer. And so last summer I did Just One Kiss, and so this would be the fourth one in that grouping. I don't really want to say series, because they're more standalones, but this one is set in the same place as my Just Look Up, Just One Kiss, Just Let Go, those books. I have one more that I want to do, and I'm like halfway through it, but I realized yesterday that halfway through point is the worst part for me, the middle. Like every time I like hit the middle and I'm like, I don't know what happens now. Like what? Wait, is this stupid? Is this book really stupid? Like, what am I doing? And I realized like that's just making my angst worse, because instead of being like at the beginning of a story, which is like so much fun and I love to like figure it out, I'm like at the middle. And so I just have been super frustrated even with that, but I think I'm starting to feel better about it now. And I always just have to kind of like prod myself along when I get to that point right at the center of the book and just go, okay, maybe you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you know what happens next. So just write the next thing you know and go from there. So that's kind of where I've been. I made that decision yesterday though, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so I'm similar. I kind of fly into the first 30,000 words, and then from kind of 30,000 to like 60,000, I just feel like I am dragging myself through.
Yes, that is the same with me. And then you look back on it, and sometimes it's like, do I even know do I even know these characters? Do I even know what's happening in this book? Like it's every self-doubt you have hits about halfway through the book. It's just like, forget it. I should just quit.
Have we seen these characters in the previous 3 books?
This character in Just One Kiss, there is a super grumpy character that is a friend of the hero. His name is Cole, and he's the hero in this. So yeah, he shows up. Yeah. I
was wondering that when I read about him. I was like, I wonder if he's gonna be coming.
I know. Well, my editor was like, what's going on with him? Like, are you going to do something? I'm like, he's in the next book. She's like, all right, okay. Because it was kind of like, just like a little dangling, and she's like, what are we doing here?
I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very excited to hear that. And so, if for any reason this released then right in the middle when you were at home with Sam's broken femur.
Yeah, it did.
And then right on the back of it came COVID-19. So like
it's a good time to release a book.
How's that worked for you? Because I mean, those of us who release books kind of know that there's kind of like this kind of 3-month period after a book comes out where you're kind of trying to, do your best to, share it with the world. And you had, a major life event followed by a major global event. So
I know. Well, the good, I will say the good thing was I was able to do a lot of like my front end work. I was done with it by the time everything happened with Sam. Like I had sent out influencer copies and I had, we had gotten going on my street team and stuff like that. So some of the marketing things were already done. But then once that happened, we've talked about this before, when a big life event happens, it's sort of like, you can only do so much. And in a way, I sort of feel like that's probably a better place for me to be, because otherwise I get really worked up about things I can't control. I mean, ultimately I can't control how much reach my book has, or really anything I'm doing, I'm going to do everything that I can, but I just feel like some of that is out of your control, how well your book does, or how many people read it and that sort of thing. And so I think that's probably a lesson I should have learned by now, instead of making myself crazy every single time a book comes out and like freaking out and like, oh my gosh, I got to do this and I got to do this. And I think put the work in, but also like just let some of it go. And so I kind of had to let some of it go, because they're really I had to take care of this kid. All I did for 6 solid weeks was just like, I slept in our living room because he couldn't get up the stairs, and just making sure that he had whatever he needed. That was what I did. So last night I woke up in the middle of the night, I was coughing, I had like a tickle in my throat and it wouldn't stop. So I went downstairs, and that youngest child has been reading Harry Potter. And so he was up. It was 1 a.m. and I went downstairs and he came down after me. He's like, are you okay? And it just felt like the roles had completely reversed, because all these nights I was like, are you okay? Are you all right? Do you need anything? And he like came and checked on me, like sat there with me for a second, gave me a hug. It was just really funny. So as awful as it was, I got all this extra time with him that I really don't think I would trade it for. I mean, I would trade the broken femur, but like being able to just hang out with him for 6 weeks, and that was my job, that was all I did, was kind of awesome. So that was like a little silver lining byproduct of everything. But yeah, as far as the book goes, I just sort of realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's just been one thing after another. So I hope people get a chance to read it and check it out. There's only so much I can do at this point, because thank you, COVID-19,
So what do you miss most about, this new shelter in place world and the old world, shall we call it?
Definitely the theater, being with our kids, and like we have made our business around bringing people together. And so we have this great community of people, that it was so crazy, because my daughter's birthday was March 31st, and we did like one of those drive-by birthday shout outs. And as you're seeing these cars go by, and by that point we had only been in for like, I think it was like, I don't know, not even 2 full weeks. And just seeing them go by, you just kind of realize how much you miss people. It was just seeing like these faces that I'm used to seeing almost every day, every other day, definitely every weekend. And because that's when we do most of our stuff, is on the weekends. And just seeing them and being like, oh my gosh, like I haven't seen any human beings for this whole time. Now it's been even longer. So, I mean, just like when I think about the day we get to perform Music Man, and the day we get to like have auditions for our next show and bring people together again, I mean, that makes me like want to just start crying, because I can't wait to see our people. So I think that's been the hardest thing, is being away from them, for sure.
Yeah, my husband is like full extrovert. So Josh took a test a few weeks ago where I said, you are 98% extrovert. So out of 100 people in a room, you're more extroverted than 98 of them. And so in New
Oh,
Zealand, we like have to, we have to live in what's called our bubble, which is the people in your house. So we've got 6 people in our bubble. And we're not enough for Mr. 98% extrovert. Like he's at
yeah.
the fence, and when he sees like neighbors walking by that we know, he's like practically over the fence trying to talk to anybody that's not us.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I know. My mom brought Easter stuff up for our kids and, socially distancing, giving them their Easter baskets. And it was just like, okay, but don't leave. Like, don't go anywhere. Like, we need to talk because you don't want people to go anywhere and like leave you. It's just like having normal conversation and like all that stuff we took for granted, just being able to like see people come through our doors at this at our business. I mean, I really think in a lot of ways being home and being quarantined, that's okay with me, but not having the income part of it is obviously pretty scary. But just not being able to bring people together, I mean, that has been, and I don't really consider myself an extrovert, but I do really miss that part of it. And just being able to watch them learn and be a part of like teaching them, directing them, like I'm ready to get back to it. That's how I'm feeling now, is like, how can we do this remotely? Like, how can I direct a show on Zoom? That's what I'm wondering, because I'm ready. Like, let's go. But with little kids, it's kind of hard too. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. Everyone who's watching this, I'm going to be giving away a copy of If For Any Reason. So leave a comment on the post. Just leave any comment really, because I haven't come up with a question. So just leave a comment and we'll draw that in a couple of days, a copy of If For Any Reason. And if you don't win, you should grab a copy because Courtney's books are amazing. So thank you for your time. Greetings from New Zealand to Illinois. And I hope, I hope you get your restrictions loosened after April 30.
Hope so too. My fingers are crossed and my toes.
All right. See ya.
Thank you.